It was a back and forth sense of reporting. You know, after Nick Saban retires, you're looking to a lot of names, but the one you were looking at that is the most significant is CBS Sports Freshman of the Year, Caleb Downs, someone who is already thought to be a surefire first-round pick, somebody who showed up on campus at Tuscaloosa as an early enrollee, was basically immediately penciled in as a starter, athleticism, football IQ, everything, just off the charts for Caleb Downs. And now, as of Wednesday morning, reports indicate, and it sure looks like we've got confirmation, Caleb Downs is into the transfer portal. Bud, is Caleb going Downs to Georgia?
That was my thought. When Nick Saban retired, I was like, okay, so is Caleb Downs going to go to Georgia or maybe Ohio State? Because he's not going to stay at Alabama, right? And I thought it would be Georgia. I know we said on the show the day Saban retired that he was probably the guy that like most look out for. That's the best defensive back they've had since Micah Fitzpatrick in terms of talent. And I think there's a pretty good chance he goes to Alabama. Or sorry, to Georgia, not to Alabama.
And that would be fun. I mean, a lot of that has to do with T-Rob and being in like, because he's going to go to Georgia, no, he might stay. And then after meeting with Kalen DeBoer for what was reported to be hours to discuss about his potential future with the Alabama Crimson Tide coaching staff, he elects that he's going to stay with Georgia. He will be the co-defensive coordinator for Kirby Smart's Bulldogs. The way that I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Robinson just played a huge role in getting Caleb Downs to Alabama in what was a hotly contested recruitment coming out of high school. And so when you've got that connection, Robinson's own defensive backs focus that he's got right there, throw in NIL or whatever else strings you need to pull to make it happen. Georgia seems to make sense. And
it's too bad. I mean, it's too bad we can't get him to join Alabama East, which used to be Georgia. Now it's Tallahassee. I mean, like, get him with some of his boys. Seminoles already got a slew of dudes from Alabama. Why not join them? But I agree with what you said. Would this be the first? I was trying to think of this. I may be way off here. But Georgia hasn't like really gone aggressively in the portal, have they? I mean, because they've done such a good job. Their roster has been so good. I'm trying to think of where they've been.
Wide receiver. Remember they got Dominic
Lovett last year off Missouri.
That was the big one.
Rod Thomas from Mississippi State.
Yeah, because there's just not usually like an obvious area on their team where they feel like they can upgrade via the portal.
Right. That was my point. Like, they don't need to go there, so they can be really selective. So when they do go after somebody, you're like, oh, yeah, this is a player. And they're able to do that.
He's the most talented non-quarterback to ever hit the portal, right? In the history of the portal.
I don't know, but he's very, very good.
I don't know, bud.
I mean, it's easy to go back hindsight because like Keon Coleman crushed it. Kenneth Walker III crushed it. But like, I think going into the portal as far as this much attention and, you know, accolades, yes, I would agree with you there.
I know it's like
for 2 years.
Yeah.
Assuming you keep him happy. Yeah.
If you're evaluating college quarterbacks as an NFL personnel player over the next couple of years, if they throw the ball well against Georgia, they're probably worth drafting because that secondary the next couple of seasons is going to be insane. So any quarterback that can pick those guys apart will probably be worth a pick. The most fascinating thing to me about all of this is Caleb Downs is great. Georgia's getting him. They already have a stacked secondary. Okay. To me, it's kind of going back to what we just talked about with Alabama a second ago. There are two different college football economies all taking place in Tuscaloosa right now. We just talked about how Alabama is kind of just in a different world, and these programs are in a different world in that they could go poach sitting head coaches and bring them as coordinators and co-coordinators because they have that much money available. But on the other side of that coin is something, you know, Bud has talked about since Saban stepped down and said earlier today. Their NIL game is a very different situation in that a lot of these kids came to Alabama at a discount for the chance to play for Nick Saban. And now that Saban is gone, Alabama is not, they're situated enough financially to go steal somebody's head coach, but they don't have the operation right now to keep some of these kids in Tuscaloosa. So it's a fascinating view for me at the two different college football economies that are dominating the sport right now. And Alabama's on both ends of each right now.
How many kids on Bama's roster do you think could pick Kalen DeBoer out of a lineup before he got hired?
None.
And I would say like maybe one, maybe
Yeah.
two. Like they don't know who Kalen DeBoer is. Kalen
Well,
DeBoer.
I think
He didn't recruit any of these kids.
football podcasters out here couldn't pick Kalen DeBoer out of a lineup.
Right. So I mean,
I gave you guys the Atlanta airport example, right? November 15th, Kalen, and I consider the Atlanta airport like the mecca of college football fans. Travel through there all the time. There's always jerseys on a Saturday. Kalen DeBoer could have been traveling through the Atlanta airport on a Saturday or Sunday when they're all coming home and been largely unrecognized wearing a UW hat and gear. Like, it's just the reality of like the explosion on the scene that he's been. And it's not a knock on Kalen DeBoer. It's just a reality of West Coast, lack of recognition, East Coast bias, SEC bias. It's just a reality.
Yeah, the only reason he'd get noticed is because you'd be like, wow, you don't see a lot of Washington fans in Atlanta.
Exactly.
I mean, but to the greater point, kids would take a serious discount to play for Nick Saban.
Yes.
I think some of these guys who've hit the portal are more than doubling what they were making at Alabama. In some cases, maybe tripling. So I think kids took a massive discount. Somebody on Twitter, actually, and I got a lot of mentions today, but said, do you think Byrne went with such a good developer X and O guy because he realized their NIL game was that far behind? It's like, I don't know, but that actually would make a lot of sense if he did. I think Alabama's going to get it ramped back up, but I think this is a pretty clear case of kids like, I don't know who the hell Kalen DeBoer is. Sure, cool. You won a lot of games at a school that I can't find on a map, and you did good for 2 years at Washington, but I don't know you. You didn't recruit me out of high school. I've never really talked to you. You don't know me. You don't know my family. I can make a lot more money playing for a guy that I've heard of. Peace. I'm going to go to the school that finished second in my recruitment.
You can't find Seattle on a map. That's a pretty damning statement of the.
He was saying Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. Well, yeah.
Don't you think that's why Dan Lanning was probably the first choice?
Yes.
Yeah. This
Kids
will
know
be
who
his,
Dan Lanning is.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning recruits this type of player. DeBoer does not so far.
Right. And this will be his first bit of adversity. Like, I don't know if you guys saw him at the basketball game, getting introduced, and thank goodness he didn't try to do a fake accent. Like, everything was good. Like, he hit it out of the park. But like, the first thing I thought of is, man, this is a new territory for him to be in, and how do you handle this? And I know everybody says, like, I know what it's going to be like, but you don't truly know what it's going to be like in the SEC at Alabama. And you're going to get criticism. Like, the phone lines are lit all day, every day. When you lose your defensive coordinator, the guy that you wanted, you lose your freshman All-American. Like, this is already going to be his first.
Wait, Proctor went into?
Who's that?
He said freshman All-American. I think he's referring to Downs.
Yeah. Downs.
I think that's the other one that people are watching.
Yeah, Caden Proctor.
You want to see if they're going to keep Caden Proctor.
If Caden Proctor goes in, Iowa might offer him the offensive coordinator title.
Well, look, and I was talking about this yesterday on CBS Sports HQ, but man, this is a really tough spot for both Washington and Alabama in that all of your players can go, but if you can't go into the portal to get anybody else.
Well, no, there's a lot of guys who are still in the portal who have not committed.
But they're not quality.
Right. That's fair.
When I do the player rankings for 24/7, and you keep scrolling down. Oh, there's Jordan McLeod, James Madison quarterback. Down. Oh, look, there's Will Rogers, who already, okay, so you've got Will Rogers. Congratulations. Like, there's just not a lot available. You're late to the party, and the best talent is talent that's leaving your roster. I mean, it's tough spot.
This is the ultimate. The pendulum is swung too far, right? Because before, you were screwed. Like, Will Rogers goes to Washington. You went there for Kalen DeBoer. You're at the school, and all of a sudden he leaves. You would have been screwed. Like, you would have been, I don't know if Jed Fish I don't know if I want to play for him. You couldn't leave. A lot of these players did go play because they wanted to play for Saban. In previous system, they would have been screwed, lost a year of eligibility. But we see why some of that was a good thing, because it prevented the devastation of a program. And I'm not saying Bama or Washington would be devastated, but my goodness, we're seeing some of the flaws in the pendulum swinging the exact opposite way, which is a good thing. Like, I don't want players to be trapped, but in the NFL, you don't have that choice. And if we're treating them like NFL players and they are making money, well, sometimes you got to deal with the decision that you made. And right now, players don't have to.
Yeah, but if anybody's going to be screwed, I'd rather it be the guys making $8 million a year.
For sure.
Tom, when you said two different economies on display at Alabama, I thought you were going to take me into the Mobile money against the Birmingham money and really start to discuss the warring factions, because Bud hit on this. Saban got in there and he said one voice policy. All y'all need to get in line. And what they need right now is they don't need any boosters to be holding their checkbooks closed because they're mad at the other boosters. They are competing with oil money. They're competing with tech money. They're competing with like mega boosters that are cutting like one big check solves the problems for half a roster. And this sort of like grassroots donation, everybody giving a little bit, it's going to be tough to keep up as the price tag is going up for being an Alabama football player right now. I'm interested to see if Saban can help with those fundraising efforts as well from his other office in the Malmore facility. Bud?
If they had not made the playoff, they would have been in a much better spot, right? Saban would not have taken so long to retire. They would have been able to pluck people from other rosters as opposed to just having this happen. They would have lost some of the recruiting class, but I think this mass exodus is a greater concern.
You can go back after spring, though, right? Go shopping.
Yes,
again.
and look,
Harder.
what Bama should do is get its NIL act together and back channel the hell out of some rosters for the spring portal.
Right. And that's what I expect.
Yes.
I expect
I'm sure better.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we'll be very interested.
I think they will.
Yeah. I think that Alabama will still be in a very, very fine shape. They've got good ball coaches. They are going to have a stressful roster with a secondary that apparently is going to have 7 freshmen. Thank goodness no SEC passing attack.
We're their starting secondary right now.
Yeah. Yes, I was talking with producer Jordan, who already foaming at the mouth of Tennessee's offense getting to go against the secondary with nothing but rookies out there. But I was like, okay, but like Tennessee, Georgia, and who else is going to be able to really light it up? Because you still got Deontay Lawson. You still got linebackers and defensive linemen that are going to be able to stop the run. You got some beasts up there. So Alabama, you might be able to get them through the air. How many SEC passing attacks are going to be able to go get Alabama through the air?
Like if they played today, a lot. They're losing like 99% of secondary snaps.
Everybody but Auburn and South Carolina.
That's a good point. Probably not.
Yeah, I still think that you're looking at a 9-10 win team. And that's not even including some shopping that you might do in that post-spring window.
If they had to roll with this roster, they're not going to win 10 games.
I'll save it for our way too early top 25 discussion.
Yeah, but they will. I'm sure they will do a lot better in the spring portal.